Hey everybody, this is Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and ScooterWest.com. So if you watched one of my recent videos, I covered most of the Rizoma products that we have available at ScooterWest.com that fit your Vespa GTS and several other Vespa models. But if you're looking for the trickiest levers for your Vespa GTS, no matter what year it is, it could be a 2006 or it can be this beautiful 2022 Impulse Orange GTS HPE. They'll fit just fine. They'll even fit the GTV and Cisgiorni. So one thing about the Rizoma levers and the mirrors is you buy them individually. So they have a left and a right. The part number on the adjustable plus levers is RZLBX150B, and you have 151B. So those are the black edition levers. They do come in other finishes. Of course, black's always going to be the most popular. I covered the other finishes in the recent video. There's also the new Vespa Rizoma 40 levers coming out soon too, and I'll review those. They all install pretty much the same. They're fully adjustable along with the lever length. So they're highly adjustable for the Vespa and they're made to the highest standards. So I'm going to show you all the steps to remove the handlebar plastics and successfully replace the levers. So let's get right to it. And first of all, I'm going to show you all the tools needed to get these installed. So let me quickly shuffle through the tools. 17mm combination wrench for taking off your existing mirrors, a 10mm wrench for the nut that retains the lever, two types of screwdrivers, a flat, a #1 Phillips, which is kind of the smaller size, Torx drivers in both T30 and T25, and lastly, it's useful to have a plastic trim tool. Scooter West part number, tool, trim. We have the whole set of these. Okay, so it is possible to remove the handlebar cover front without taking off the horn cover, but you're gonna be set up for success if you do remove the horn cover. Covered, like detrimming these HPE Vespas, they're the more difficult variation. So I'm going from the left side to pry this badge off. You can see you access that little tab there and you pry that little badge right off. We have those badges available in a black one. You're going to need your T25 Torx driver. You actually don't need the T30 for this. And remove the single screw. And some of the horn covers, they shift down to remove. Get my hands underneath here, and we're going to go ahead and pull the cover off, just away from the bodywork, directly away. You don't want to slide or twist or anything. You don't want to scratch the paintwork. It does take quite a bit of resistance, and you're forcing against these three gripper tabs right here. The early ones, they just slide out. They're actually easier to change out. And while we have that off, we have our T25 Torx driver. I'd either have it magnetized or put a little grease on the tip of the driver and just line up with that single screw in the center there. And go ahead and remove the screw. And you can also put your finger on it. This is another way to hold the screw so it doesn't drop right into the frame. It's very likely to drop into the frame if you're not set up to remove this. So on your right mirror, you want to go counterclockwise, just like that. And on your left mirror, you want to go clockwise to loosen it. So keep that in mind. That's only with the newer ones. The older Vespas, they did not use the reverse thread on the left-hand side. So going clockwise with this left mirror. So take your #1 Phillips. It's got to be a pretty small Phillips driver. And both the left and the right side, they have these small screws that also have washers with them. And remove them. And again, make sure you don't lose the washer. They're both the same style screws for both the left and the right side. At this point, you can see the handlebar cover is loose. So stand in front of the scooter, just like such. And these newer ones are very easy to take apart. The older ones, the clips are, they grab a little bit tighter. And carefully pull this away. you can see these clips on both sides. You can actually put your fingers through these mirror holes and push those little clips if you have any difficulty. And you're gonna have a single connector for the headlight. I'll go ahead and disconnect it and show you what you gotta push. This little tab, you gotta pull it away, and that's how you disconnect the LED headlight. If it's just a standard headlight, the connector just pulls right off the back of the headlight assembly. And now you have access to both the left and the right master cylinder, where we can in turn change the levers. So the first step is remove the stock lever. So underneath the lever pivot screw is a 6mm nut, and you'll need a 10mm combination wrench. And once you get a couple turns, you'll be able to just remove it by hand. Don't lose that nut because you'll reuse that. And then from the top, you take a big flat screwdriver, maybe a little larger than the one I have right now. And I find if you hold the lever a little bit, it makes the screw come out a little easier. So just a little pressure on the lever makes the job go a little quicker. And be prepared for it to kind of eject the lever when you pull the screw out. There's a specific step screw. Then hold your hand under here, because sometimes you have washers drop out from the lever. So we'll go ahead and set all this stuff aside. We don't really need the stock lever or washers. And the next step would be, I recommend having a nice thick Maxima waterproof grease. This is what we use in the service department, Scooter West part number grease. And we have our right lever all prepared. And along with the lever, there's a bronze bushing right here. So the part that's most critical that has some grease on is this little heel right here, just a small amount of grease. You can even put a very small amount on the bronze bushing. The whole idea of this bronze bushing is it's self-lubricating, so it doesn't really need grease, so I put very little grease on it. So the bronze bushing's held in place with the small amount of grease. You'll slide that right into the master cylinder and kind of eyeball above it to get that bronze bushing kind of lined up with the hole for this screw. And once you get all lined up, sometimes you got to give it a little wiggle. That's no problem there. And go ahead and tighten that screw fairly tight. Make sure the lever works fine. And then we'll go ahead and shift that throttle cable out of the way and thread the nut back on here. And we'll get under here and tighten this with our 10mm combination wrench. And it doesn't need to be too tight. And that's pretty much all you need to do to get these levers installed. And go ahead and repeat those same steps for your left lever. If you watched the video on how to shorten these levers, or with the whole Rizoma review, you could pop this little rubber plug out and loosen that Allen key, and then you could shift this whole entire lever in, and you pretty much take up this whole space. It's about, I would say 60mm, a little about 5/8 of an inch, and then you have these nice 2-finger levers. Very adaptable. I think they're pretty neat. And the most important feature is you can adjust the length. So, you know, somebody with big hands like this is probably fine that they're pretty far out. Maybe you have smaller hands, or you want to equalize the lever force, you could certainly adjust it. And they have little detents, so different feels. The nice thing is these are pretty safe aftermarket levers. They never come close to the grip. There are some other aftermarket dog levers that do get a little closer to grip, so if you have really small hands, these may not be the best ones for you, but at the loosest setting, you're like that, you know, still, I think even a smaller hand, because I'm reaching from in there, they'll be fine. And if you're looking for the ultra sporty look, of course, the two, you know, set up for the short lever, and you could do the sporty 2-finger actuation. So you need a 3mm Allen key to remove that screw from back here and remove the rubber plug. So if you're looking to add the one last added little trick touch to your scooter, there's 3 different colors of extra O-rings. You kind of got this clear white one, blue and red, and then of course the black one's installed. It's just that O-ring, and you pretty much can get your finger right under the O-ring that's on this adjustable knob, the adjuster knob, and pry it off, and we could swap it out. I think since this scooter is so warm, we're gonna go for a nice red O-ring on it. Because the next thing we're gonna put on is some mirrors, and they have some red accents on them as well. So Yep, definitely looks better with the red one there. All right, so both levers installed and pretty much all the reverse steps to get the handlebar covers all back together. So plug your headlight in, don't forget. And one thing you do want to check is make sure your brake light switches work correctly when you, before you reassemble. That could be a problem sometimes with aftermarket levers. Sometimes they don't quite work correctly the first round. The handlebar covers, you do have to kind of jog around some of the hardware of these levers to get this to fit. Not that big of a deal, but just something to keep in mind. So get those snapped up there. And these HPEs, they snap together so much nicer than the prior generation handlebar covers. Put the 2 small screws in from the back side of your handlebar. Make sure the seams are all fitting nice on the bottom as well. Don't over tighten these little screws. They don't need to be too tight. And then take the single screw that goes in from the front. Again, either a magnetized tip, grease the tip, or hold the screw as you guide it into its final destination. So the horn cover's got the 3 locating gripper clips, as they call them, and best way to get these in is just a little bit of brute force. So just give it a couple little fist bumps and put the thread forming kind of coarse thread plastic screw that goes into the plastic little square nut that's in the frame, and then you can snap the badge just like such. The mirrors, I've covered how to install stock mirrors several times in the past. You might want to look out for the next video because we're going to take the Rizoma stuff on this scooter to the next level. So next video, I'm going to do a set of bar end mirrors and the plugs that cover up these holes. Definitely looks pretty trick with these nice levers, fully adjustable. Got the little red bands on there to kind of dress up the look. You can go for the blue bands or the black bands, no bands, the kind of clearer ones. You could shorten up the levers. They would look extra trick if we shortened them up. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. Nice and simple install, and definitely a step above the standard aluminum levers that are found on the Vespa scooters. So pretty much all years Vespa GTS, whether you have a 2006 or the latest 2022 model, such as this one right here, they'll fit. If you have double disc brakes, they'll pretty much fit any of the products from Vespa or Piaggio. They all use a very similar caliper for the last 15 years. Thanks again. Until next time, Robot here from Vespa Motorsport. Consider going to our channel, Vespa Motorsports. Consider subscribing. Just type the word Rizoma in our Vespa Motorsport channel, and you'll see all the various videos I have covering installing the Rizoma products. If you're looking to buy any of these products, we're an authorized Rizoma dealer here in San Diego, and they're all available on our web store, scooterwest.com.